Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So I, 32 female, am in a really tough situation with my brother, Jason, 35 male, and my sister-in-law, Emily, 34 female, and I'm honestly torn between feeling guilty and feeling justified. I really need an outside perspective on this because I don't know if I've gone too far. Let me start by giving some context. Jason and Emily have been trying to have a baby for about 4 years now, and it's been a really heartbreaking journey for them. They've done all sorts of fertility treatments, medications, procedures, you name it, but nothing has worked. After a lot of tears and disappointment, they've come to the point where IVF is their last hope. But as you might know, IVF is really expensive, and they've already drained most of their savings on other treatments. Earlier this year, Jason and Emily sat me down and asked if I could help them cover the cost of IVF. Now, I'm financially stable, most because my ex-husband and I have worked hard to rebuild our lives after some rocky years, which I'll explain in a minute. Jason and Emily know that I have some extra money saved up, and they made it clear that they were asking me because they truly felt like this was their last chance at having a family. To be honest, my heart really went out to them. I've seen how hard it's been for them and how much they want to be parents. I also know that Emily has always wanted a big family, so this journey has been especially painful for her. After thinking it over for a few days, I decided I would help them. I told them I'd contribute a significant amount towards their IVF treatment because at the time, I just couldn't bear the thought of them not getting to experience parenthood. I also thought about how much they would love their future child and how this baby would be my niece or nephew. It felt right to help them. But now, everything has changed. Last week, Jason and Emily invited me, my husband Tom, 37 male, and my daughter Lily, 10 female, on a vacation with them. They said it would be a nice way to relax and bond as a family after everything we've been through. I thought it sounded like a great idea, and I was excited for the trip. But then they dropped a bombshell that completely changed the way I see them. They didn't invite my son, Ryan, 7 male. I was confused at first, and I asked why they hadn't included Ryan in the invitation. That's when things got uncomfortable. Jason and Emily started stammering and trying to come up with excuses, but eventually they told me the truth. They didn't want Ryan on the trip because, in their words, he's a reminder of my past affair. Now, here's the backstory. 7 years ago, I had an affair. It was during a really dark and complicated time in my marriage. Tom and I had been separated for a while, and I made the biggest mistake of my life by getting involved with someone else. Ryan was the result of that affair. When Tom and I decided to reconcile and work through our issues, he accepted Ryan as his own, and he's been an amazing father to both Lily and Ryan. We've been co-parenting peacefully, and both of our kids are happy and loved. But apparently, Jason and Emily can't get over the fact that Ryan is the product of an affair. They said they don't feel comfortable having him around and that it would be awkward for them. They tried to justify it by saying they're trying to build a wholesome family atmosphere and that Ryan's presence would be a reminder of my past mistakes. They even hinted that having him there would ruin their enjoyment of the vacation. I was absolutely furious. How dare they exclude my son? Ryan is innocent in all of this, and he's done nothing to deserve being treated like some kind of outcast. He's a sweet, loving boy who has no idea about the circumstances of his birth, and he definitely doesn't deserve to be excluded from a family trip just because Jason and Emily can't get over my past. I told them right then and there that if Ryan wasn't welcome, then neither was Lily or me. I couldn't believe they were trying to create this perfect family vacation while deliberately leaving out one of my children. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. It made me start questioning their whole mindset. If they're already treating my son like this now, how would they act once they have their own child? Would Ryan always be the black sheep in the family? Would they continue to exclude him from family events because of something he had no control over? Then it hit me. How could I, in good conscience, help these people bring a child into the world when they clearly lack the basic compassion to treat all children with love and respect? I can't support people who think it's okay to ostracize a 7-year-old because of my mistakes. So, I decided to withdraw my financial support for their IVF. When I called Jason and Emily to tell them, they were furious. Jason accused me of being petty and vindictive, and he said I was punishing them over something that had nothing to do with their IVF journey. Emily started crying, saying that I was taking away their dream of having a baby, and that I was being cruel for changing my mind after I had already agreed to help them. They said I was selfish for letting my personal issues interfere with their chance to become parents. But honestly, I don't see it that way. This isn't just about money. It's about what kind of people they are and how they treat my children. I can't stand by and let them disrespect Ryan while simultaneously helping them start a family. I know they've been through a lot, and I feel terrible for their struggles, but I have to protect my son from people who clearly don't accept him. Now, the whole family is divided. Some of them think I did the right thing by standing up for my son, but others think I'm being unreasonable and that I shouldn't have tied the IVF to the vacation issue. I'm torn between feeling guilty about potentially crushing their hopes of becoming parents and feeling like I need to put my children first. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? What kind of people exclude a child from a family vacation just because of how they were conceived? That's incredibly judgmental and cruel. If OP's brother and sister-in-law are already treating OP's son this way, I can only imagine how they'll act when they have their own kid. OP is doing the right thing by standing up for her son and refusing to fund their IVF until they show some basic human decency. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but I completely agree with your decision. Your son should never be excluded because of something that happened in your past, especially something he had no control over. It's heartbreaking that your brother and sister-in-law are acting like this when they should be focused on love and family. You're 100% right not to help them with IVF until they learn to accept and respect your entire family. Everyone sucks here. Your brother and sister-in-law are obviously wrong for excluding your son, but pulling your financial support for their IVF feels like an overreaction. This situation could have been resolved with a conversation where you explained how hurtful their actions were. Now you've escalated things by withdrawing the offer to help, and that's not fair. There's a better way to handle this without ruining your relationship with your brother and sister-in-law. You're the a-hole. I get that you're hurt, but backing out of the IVF support just because of the vacation issue feels petty. You agreed to help them because they're struggling, and now you're going back on that because of an unrelated issue. It seems like you're punishing them out of anger instead of trying to work things out. You should reconsider and find a way to address the vacation problem without ruining their chances of becoming parents. I grew up in a small southern town, went to a mid-sized college for fashion merchandising, went to work in my field, and 3 years ago I met my fiance. Let's call him Barry. I am reasonably successful at my job, and Barry is ridiculously successful at his, in addition to coming from a fairly well-off family. We started dating long distance, and then I moved to his city with a promotion to regional, and we moved in together. I love this city and all of my new friends here. I love my new position, and I love my fiance. We're looking at houses and everything. We're a great match. Barry is charming, wonderful, thoughtful, and attentive. Everything I want in a man. His family is very supportive of us and our plans, as is mine. When he proposed last year with a beautiful ring at the beach, I gleefully accepted. We talked about it and we agreed on a prenup to protect us both, in case of the worst. My motivation was to protect the inheritance I'm anticipating from my grandmother, a family farm of about 50 acres, and my parents' home when they eventually pass. There's also some jewelry and antique china and other things I would never want to lose. It's not a lot, compared to Barry's holdings, but it's mine, and I would never want anything to happen to it. Nor would I want anything from Barry if we divorced, so I didn't think anything of agreeing to a prenup. Only now, his lawyer is putting it together. We're still over 8 months out of the wedding date, so this is a perfectly reasonable step. My lawyer looked it over and agreed it was pretty fair, according to the laws of our state. I agreed with him that we should go ahead with it, and he made the arrangements for this Friday. I went ahead and took the day off to go sign the papers and have lunch with Barry to celebrate. But when I got back from my attorney, I noticed that part of what I'll be expected to do is to participate in a polygraph examination. So will Barry. I can put together a list of questions for him, and he can do the same for me. But we'll be making the answers hooked up to a lie detector. I've done these in the past for security checks, so I know how they work. But here's the problem. When Barry and I got together at first, we were exchanging particulars after our first date. We met at Virgin Gorda, BVI, beautiful. And he casually asked about the number of men I'd been with. The usual S-history stuff all adults do. At the time, I didn't think much of it and gave him my usual answer, 5. That seemed reasonable, even a little conservative at the time. I only counted long-term relationships since high school, and the boy I lost my virginity to as real relationships, not the high school boys I fooled around with or the other guys I've met. But here's the thing. In the suggestions my attorney sent me for questions, where he told me that the other side will be asking similar questions, there are a lot about S past and infidelity. So here's my problem. I wasn't entirely honest with Barry back then. My actual count of guys I've had S with is higher. I was a free spirit in college before I figured out what I wanted to do, and took a year off to travel before graduating. That was a very fun year, S speaking. I made a lot of mistakes, of course, but I was getting valuable experience and learning a lot about myself. But I know Barry would not be happy with the real number, maybe even enough to postpone or cancel the wedding. That would be devastating to me. But his family is a little conservative and religious. I know he doesn't have much respect for infidelity or women who sleep around. I'm terrified that he'll ask me those questions or learn about the few times I've cheated in past relationships. We've been together almost constantly for 3 years, and I love him deeply. I don't know what to do. I'm no longer that girl who did all those things. I've grown and matured. I just don't think Barry will see it that way. He's a lot less S experienced than me, only 8 partners total. And he does get a little jealous when I mention my exes. He found out about something I did with one guy that I've declined to do with Barry, and he was hurt about it for weeks. I don't know what he'll do if he learns about all that I've done. So what do I do? I've already confirmed my appointment for Friday before I figured this out, and now I'm a train wreck. If I back out, he's going to want to know why. If I admit lying, he's not going to trust me. I'm a basket case and can't even go into work over this. Thoughts? I feel like someone alerted him to your behavior and he's trying to smoke you out. He knows you lied and just wants the proof. That, or he just doesn't trust you, which is apparently well-founded. Either way, you wouldn't be in this mess if you didn't lie. Your whole relationship is built on deceit. Did you really think it would last forever? A polygraph for a prenup is very strange. What's even stranger to me is how you would consider entering into a marriage with someone that you yourself admitted lying to. Now, I agree with you that it shouldn't matter how many partners you've had beforehand. Unfortunately, not everyone feels that way. For many people, it is very important. If you are really considering marrying this man, then I think you owe it to him to be honest. Just because it is not important to you doesn't mean it's not important to him, and his feelings are just as relevant as yours. We all have our own deal breakers. Please be honest with him before you marry him. Jesus, this isn't a wedding, it's a crime scene. I think you should, as a matter of course, refuse to answer any and all questions that do not relate to financial or criminal matters. If you specifically say S matters, then you give the game away. But really, a polygraph for a prenup? You pair are both barking mad for agreeing to this. If there is any way out of this, say you didn't notice this and back out of this section on both sides. Update. I came clean with my fiance. Good news, polygraph test is off. Bad news, so is the wedding. He got upset and asked how many. I told him the number didn't matter. It was the fact that I lied that I was feeling guilty about. He agreed it was disturbing to him, but he wanted to know how many men. I tried to tell him it wasn't the issue, but he wasn't listening. He got a little angry. He doesn't shout or use a lot of profanity, but I could tell he was very upset by his face. He said it was important to him to know. I told him it wasn't important to me, that it wouldn't have an impact on our relationship. I really don't want the exact number publicized, but it's less than 40. Barry told me that he didn't like the idea of having so many lovers in my past, that we ran the chance of running into one at the airport. He was also upset when I told him that, yes, some of them were technically better lovers and more well-endowed than he was. That hurt him a lot. I didn't want to say that to him, but he insisted. It's apparently important to him. If he wants to know how many people you've slept with before marrying you, you should tell him the truth. You've already lied and now he doesn't trust you. So then not even telling him the real number is going to make him trust you even less. People say the amount of people you've slept with shouldn't matter. Well, you don't decide what other people think. If it matters to him and he won't want to marry someone who has lied, cheated, and been promiscuous in the past, then he is allowed. I met my boyfriend, Brad, in college 4 years ago. Started off as friends, yada yada. He was really kind, generous, and very geeky, which immediately drew me in. Other than this issue, we have a really incredible relationship. Like, seriously, he's treated me better than any guy I've ever been with. Our communication has been really stellar up until now, and we haven't had any serious issues before this. We usually resolve our disagreements pretty quickly and don't stay mad at each other very long. So, my older sister has been trying for a baby with her husband for more than a year and finally got pregnant with their first baby 5.5 months ago. We're all really super excited. It's a baby girl, blah blah. The baby shower is this weekend. I've been having spasms shopping for gifts and stuff. I'm really pumped. The shower is girls only. As I understand it, it's pretty traditional to have girls-only showers if your baby is a girl. I don't see a problem with it at all, and that's how my sister wants it. Yesterday, I took Brad shopping with me for some finishing touches on the baby basket I'm going to bring. I was enthusiastic about it to him, and he made a comment about what kind of drinks he should bring. I said, "Oh, it's girls only. Sorry, dude. I'll bring back food if there's any left, though." And then just sort of laughed it off. He looked kind of surprised for a minute, muttered, "Really?" and then dropped it. The rest of our trip through the store and the rest of our trip home was okay, but a lot quieter. I kept asking him in the car if he was upset, but he just told me it was nothing and kept doing stuff on his phone. We got back to our place and I went to unload the groceries, and he just made a beeline to our computer room and shut the door. I went in there and asked him what the heck his problem was, and he looked at me and said, "You should know." He's not usually passive-aggressive, so I was pretty alarmed, but I figured I'd leave him alone for a while and let him come to me when he was ready to talk. Later last night, bedtime came, and he was still on his computer, so I came in there to finally have a talk with him about what's wrong. I asked him if it was about the baby shower, no boys allowed thing, and what the comment earlier was about, and he said, "I don't think you should go." This really upset me. I asked him why not. Because it's sexist. Girls only? Why can't men come? That's misandrist. I explained to him that it's a tradition thing, that I don't think it's as big of a deal as he's making it out to be, and then asked him why guys would want to come watch women gush about girl stuff for hours anyway. He said it's ducking sexist, and that's gender stereotyping. If I went anyway, would they call R? I was completely flabbergasted. We ended up having a huge argument over it, for the stupidest ducking reason in the world. And this all came out of left field. He kept saying stuff about female privilege and gender segregation, and all of this stuff about how my sister is discriminating against men by not allowing them to attend her baby shower. Her husband's not even going, for Christ's sake. I couldn't stop thinking about how stupidly he was getting over such a small thing. I ended up telling him that he was just mad only because he couldn't go, that he didn't really want to go anyway, and he yelled, "You are supporting the matriarchy by going to the shower." I was beyond frustrated and decided that the best thing to do was to let it rest and wake up in the morning so we could have a calm discussion about it. I slept on the couch to give him some space. The next morning, I approached him and said, "Brad, I understand that your feelings are hurt, but please let me explain to you that this shower is important for me and my family, and please respect my sister's preference that men not attend." He told me flat out that he was going to go anyway in protest, and then he was going to educate my sister on misandry. I'd had enough. I got up and left. I've been at my mom's for a while now. I haven't told anybody in the family about this yet. I think I just need an objective opinion from strangers on the internet, as stupid as that sounds. Please understand, we aren't political people. I don't do the gender politics thing. It's just not something that I spend time thinking about. Brad has never given any indication that he passionately cared about this stuff until yesterday. I'm just really shocked that we've had 4 years together and this is just now popping up. I'm in a really scary place right now because I'm not sure I totally know who he is after 4 years of being by his side. I feel like he was a total a-hole to me last night and this morning, and this is so unlike him. He's always been really good to my family, sister included. Why the nastiness now? Or am I the a-hole? Please help, Reddit. I love my boyfriend, but I don't want to have arguments over stupid gender politics that have me sleeping on the couch, and I do not want him crashing my sister's baby shower to prove a point and ruin my future niece's birth. Edit. After reading all the comments so far, thank you guys for offering your advice and perspectives. I've decided that I'm going to go home and try to have a talk about this ridiculousness. I turned my phone on and there was at least 10 texts and 2 voicemails. He said a lot of stuff, but it boiled down to, "I'm sorry it turned into a huge fight. Come home so we can talk about this. This is really important. You don't understand how this makes me feel," etc. I'll update if something happens. This is pretty bizarre. Setting aside the gender politics, it's incredibly rude to invite oneself to something you are not invited to. He's being very rude, and he's dragging a lot of interesting gender politics into it as well. Same-gender baby showers tend to allow many women to feel more freedom in discussing the specifics of birth, breastfeeding, and other body-related tales that they would not recount in the same space as men. Many people aren't comfortable with that kind of sharing. While technically, yes, it is sexist, it's a side effect of women's bodies and the mechanics of birth being deemed impolite for mixed company. Tell him that. If he continues to insist on coming, despite reasonable objections and your sister, the person of honor's discomfort, he's just being a jerk and using misandry as an excuse. My mother recently had to be moved into a retirement home after an accident. As my mother was not able to save up for retirement, she had to raise 4 of us alone on a nurse salary after my father died in an accident. We decided to split the bill between us siblings, except for my brother, 32 male, who went back to university doing his master's and has no money. We agreed he would pay back the money later. This payment makes out a not substantial but also not small amount of my salary. It's around 15%. Lately, I have gotten into fights around that fact with my wife. My mother is not going into the most fanciest of retirement homes, but it is a good and slightly expensive one. We looked at alternatives, but all the other retirement homes are simply not up to standards, and some were downright horrible. My wife is objecting to that. In my country, the base coverage is paid by the government, thus, theoretically, my mother could go to such a home without any of us paying. However, this home has a bad reputation and is severely lacking resources and personnel. This is the clashing point. My wife, who is coming from a fairly wealthy family, is of the opinion that my mother should have taken care of her pension herself, which she did within her possibilities, and is to blame herself. I really don't know how to deal with the situation because compromise is impossible. My mother is already going to the cheapest acceptable home, and all my siblings are paying the same. And she won't let go of it. Appreciate some advice. I think your wife is out of line. When you marry someone, you support them in taking care of the ones they love. Your mother raised you well and obviously has 4 kids who understand the sacrifices she made so you and your siblings could be successful adults. I have to really question your wife's values when she is making such a big deal out of getting what would be a luxury item. If she came to you tomorrow and it turned out her parents lost their retirement fund due to whatever, would she want you to deny them a decent place to live because you make the majority income, and would it affect your lifestyle? What if her mother lost any and all access to her father's retirement funds? Would your wife tell her, "Sorry, Mom, you should have planned for your retirement and gotten a job like the rest of us adults"? It sounds like your wife has had a lot handed to her in life, but has delusions that she earned it all herself.